So Avengers Doomsday, will it actually be any good? Well, a lot of Marvel fans are not so sure this time, and I can't imagine why. Needless to say, we're very far removed from Marvel having only like 3 semi-bad movies on their track record. Fans don't have that unmoved confidence in them to pull something like this off like they used to. It seems that every new thing we find out about this movie just breeds more and more cynicism in the fan base. Firstly, RDJ returning as Doctor Doom.
The fuck?
Seen as a desperate move by many. The focus on the multiverse, which people are just completely done with at this point. The fact that many of the actors haven't read scripts yet. The Russo brothers' dwindling rep in the fan base. And as most recent, the movie just being delayed entirely. By almost an entire year. It's easy to look at these circumstances and be cynical. To write it off as if it's going to be bad before we've even seen anything from it yet. However, I think some have had kind of an overly visceral reaction to everything they've learned about this film. People have already said it's over due to the news of delays and actors not getting scripts yet, being seen as clear signs of a bad movie ahead. But I hear stuff like this and think, this is how Marvel have always operated. They had no script when they shot Iron Man 1, and they've been keeping scripts a secret from actors since Infinity War and Endgame. But Marvel have proven that they can produce really good comic book movies from this hectic way of filmmaking. To freak out over this would be just to freak out at the production of all of these movies at this point. People have been saying at this point that Marvel should just start giving actors their scripts. I can't imagine how hard it must be for an actor to try and act out a scene when they have zero idea what the context of the scene is supposed to be. But Marvel are incredibly adamant that even their actors aren't given too much information on these big event films. To which they've actually been incredibly vindicated recently, as Alan Cumming has already spoiled that at some point he'll fight Reed Richards. And as for the recent delay, it doesn't really come as a surprise. The movie would have came out pretty much a year from now, and they've only started shooting like a month to 2 months ago. Even then, they could have had a plan to pull it off, but there are many ways in which that plan could have faltered. The cast of this movie is gigantic, so I do not envy the person who has to be responsible for getting all these actors together. There could be conflicts in certain actors' scheduling, they could be trying to pull something off on short notice. There's rumors flying around that they're still negotiating with Sony to get Spider-Man in the movie for some reason, even though I thought they already had a multi-movie deal signed and sealed already. There are many reasons why this movie could have been delayed. And again, it's nothing new for Marvel to delay a film. It is new for them to delay an Avengers film, but if anything, there should be an indication that the quality will be better. Marvel cannot afford for this movie to be bad, so they are going to put all of their resources into making sure it's as good as possible. This isn't a Marvels or a Thor 4 type deal. They have a lot riding on this one. I imagine it's the main reason why they brought back both directors and one of the writers from the previous 2 Avengers films, and 4 of some of the best movies the MCU have produced. And of course, one of the biggest concerns for this movie is that it just was not the original plan. We all know what the original plan was at this point, and we all know why it didn't come through. And it's only around 2023 when Marvel and RDJ came up with this wacky Doctor Doom idea. But given that Secret Wars was always the new Endgame after Endgame, I think it's safe to assume that Doctor Doom was always going to play a role somewhat in these films. Of course, it's an insanely daunting task to write off the guy who was supposed to be the leading bad for this. But I do think it's ultimately better to just have Doom be the big bad of these 2 films instead of Doom and Kang, as well as all the Kang variants that they would have introduced at some point. And there is also zero chance that Kang would have ever recovered from the aura loss of losing the way he did in Ant-Man Quantumania. The negative reception to that film was probably what made Marvel so comfortable with just scrapping that storyline entirely. And call me a Marvel glazer all you want, but I'm actually interested to see what they do with RDJ as Doctor Doom. It's such an insane and wacky idea that they actually have no choice but to have an interesting story to tell around it. I highly doubt he's a Tony Stark variant, and a part of me does believe that we will have a main universe Doctor Doom that isn't him after these 2 movies are all said and done. I'm overall just being very open-minded about this movie and how it will play out. Considering the fact that the creative team that have made some of my favorite MCU movies are coming back, and the fact that we literally know nothing about the movie other than who's in it. I also like how high stakes this is for Marvel. If the first reactions to this movie are negative, Kevin Feige might actually collapse, so they actually cannot afford for this movie to not be good. I am also just a nerd and happy that we're actually getting an Avengers movie again. A break was obviously needed, but this is the first time since Endgame that the MCU feels like it's culminating to something. I know the multiverse saga has been a bit all over the place, but this movie actually has the chance to make all of that look more cohesive in retrospect. Like, this movie can actually tie all of the multiverse projects together into a singular narrative. Obviously, all of the multiverse movies they have made have had completely different inciting events. If this movie can tie them together at least a little bit, I'll be happy.